Despite this TV campaign of deliberate distortion, funded by the monopoly owners of the existing bridge, what I've given you today are the facts. The Ambassador Bridge owners can buy the airwaves, but they cannot change the facts. Here's another fact. Today, in reality, there is no alternative to the new international trade crossing, except for doing nothing, that is. And hopefully we all recognize that doing nothing would be a terrible and most unnecessary risk for this region's economy. Some of the earlier ads, the ones that ran last year, argued that the Ambassador Bridge should be twinned instead of building the NITC. That might work for the Maroons. They would own it, their monopoly would be preserved. However, they don't own the land that they would require to twin it on the Detroit side. The city does, the city of Detroit does, and both the mayor and the city council have endorsed the new international trade crossing. The city will not sell the land to the Ambassador Bridge folks. Likewise in Windsor. The city of Windsor would have to close parts of 3 city streets to accommodate the twin. They adamantly refuse to do so. The last thing they want is more traffic, or doubling or worse, dumping on the Huron Church Road in Windsor. They want at least some of the traffic off of Huron Church Road. I don't know how many of you have crossed the bridge, but if you have, you know that once you get through the often highly congested Canadian Customs Plaza, you exit onto a city street. You then travel 7 or 8 miles through 18 traffic lanes before you connect to freeway. 8,000 trucks do this every day, every single day of the year. Nothing can be done. There's been too much development around the Canadian Plaza since 1929 to bring freeway to the foot of the Ambassador Bridge. But Canada and Ontario are equally splitting the cost of a $1.4 billion freeway that is already under construction and will come right to the foot of the new international trade crossing. For the first time ever at Detroit, Windsor, truckers and passenger vehicles alike will enjoy freeway-to-freeway access. And the plaza that trucks and cars encounter on the Canadian side will be 10 times larger than the existing one, 132 acres compared to 14 acres, large enough to accommodate the free and secure trade and the Nexus and other post-9/11 programs that have been developed to speed movement, but which in the case of the plaza at the Ambassador Bridge have been squeezed into a space that simply is inadequate for them to deliver fully on their potential. Oh, and the plaza will be big enough for us to do our secondary screening there. Currently, there's no space to do that. We have to send any truck that's ascertained as warranting additional scrutiny 2 miles into Canada for it to receive secondary screening. Post 9/11, this is crazy, but there's nothing that can be done about it in the available space of the Ambassador Bridge. We respectfully ask Michiganders to share Canada's desire that security should be done right on our side as well as on yours. In recognition of all of these facts, Governor Snyder and Prime Minister Harper have acted. In addition to the Michigan Chamber, the Detroit Regional Chamber, chambers in most major communities across Michigan, virtually the entire automotive industry, almost all of the major companies in Michigan, major unions in this state, associations representing your agricultural industry, almost all of your major newspapers have come out in favor of this bridge. The Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, SEMCOG, has done so. In the middle of September, the West Michigan Policy Forum voted to make securing the new international trade crossing their #1 advocacy priority. In other words, support for the bridge is overwhelming. It's not unanimous. And one very well-funded special interest seems quite inclined to spend anything and say anything in order to preserve its monopoly. Interestingly, there's absolutely no controversy about this on the Canadian side of the river, even though all of the risk and all of the liability for it rests with Canadians. We know it's the right thing to do. We know how critically important it is to the economic future of this industrial heartland. We know there's no option but to proceed, even if it means assuming what normally would have been your share of the cost and the risk. Now it's vital that Michigan residents take action as well. The Maroons met the bare legal requirement to get Proposal 6 onto your ballot this November. They want Michiganders to amend your constitution to deny yourselves reliable cross-border transportation going forward and to prolong their monopoly for the foreseeable future. Pretty audacious stuff. Their comparative advantage in this battle certainly isn't the truth. It's their willingness to spend any amount of money to peddle absolute garbage. Their cynicism is totally exposed. They think that well-crafted lies told over and over again by way of television commercials can trump the facts. They clearly feel it worked for them last year, so they're emboldened to give it another try. I suggest to you that if they're successful, they'll feel they have a mandate for more litigation and more stunts. By the way, they lose all of the lawsuits that they bring. They just lost another major one last week in the U.S. Superior Court. For them, it's not necessarily about winning. It's about kicking the can down the road for another year or 2 or 5, ensuring that they face no competition for as long as their bridge remains operational. Indeed, we Canadians hope that Michiganders will decide this November the 6th that it's time to end the games. The Detroit Free Press editorialized on June 17th that we Canadians have a great deal of confidence in you. In fact, they said we have more confidence in you than you have in yourselves. November 6th will be an opportunity for Michiganders to demonstrate that you have at least as much confidence in yourselves as we have in you. You would do that by defeating Proposal 6, sending a signal that you support the new international trade crossing. You'll make, in this scenario, a collective statement that you're firmly focused on the future. The Maroons may have no faith in the automotive industry going forward, or in Michigan's economic future for that matter, but their pessimism is opportunistic, it is misplaced, and it warrants repudiation. I've made available today a fact sheet, which Dan and colleagues have handed out. It tells the truth in a typically modest Canadian way. Again, we aren't spending money on television ads. That campaign is for Michiganders to wage or not. There's an email address on the back of the sheet. If you want it electronically, just send an email and ask for it. Every one of you is connected and networked to colleagues, to family and friends. Share it. Take ownership of the issue. Don't submit to a billionaire's self-interest. Invest in educating your networks, impressing upon them why this project is critical to the future of North American manufacturing and trade and to jobs in this region. Together, we can get this project done.